So I'm going to take an opportunity to use the idiot that keeps responding in my comments section as an opportunity to talk about the danger of filling children's heads with nonsense that they are somehow, an immutable force of nature because they take this martial art or that martial art. Now, I'm pretty sure the commenter in my comment section, everything they're saying is complete fantasy. However, their comment that their kid could, quote, their 13-year-old kid could, quote, slap me around, and then stating that when I accused them of hiding behind a 13-year-old child, they said, I'm not hiding behind my 13-year-old child. I'd let my child have fun by embarrassing you. And they supposedly trained under some grand mufti of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who I don't know because I don't pay attention to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm not dissing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, although I'm going to leave links in the description explaining how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was marketed dishonestly through the UFC and other similar events. And also an interview with Ken Shamrock on his fights with Gracie, and also on the true founder of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who's the Japanese dude that was a judo champion that came to the United States and then found his way in Brazil and then taught the Gracie family, yada 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 yada. And no, I'm not delusional. I'm not saying that I could step into a UFC ring and defeat the greatest UFC champions of all time and all that nonsense, okay? But what I am saying is this. One of the problems that you have, now I'm not turning this into a martial arts channel. This is not a martial arts channel. I consider myself a martial artist because I actually still practice martial arts, mostly on my own now though. But the thing is, what you have to keep in mind is just because you train under an extraordinary person does not make you an extraordinary person. Okay, that's the biggest mistake people make. And a lot of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes are done in seminar format, kind of like Krav Maga. And this does not lend itself to the retention and application of technique. Okay, now I've taught a number of women's self-defense seminars, and to be honest, I think what's important to understand here is this. In the teaching of a seminar, seminars are meant, in my opinion, a self-defense seminar, whether it's children's self-defense or women's self-defense, they are meant as a supplement to an authentic, well-rounded martial arts curriculum, a legitimate curriculum. Not in seminar form, not I took this for 3 days and then I'm going to wait 6 months and take another one and then wait 12 months and take another one and blah, 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 blah. That's not how you learn really anything to any good extent. But more importantly, that's not how you learn martial arts, number one. Number two, the problem with teaching children, there's a difference between confidence and delusion. And a lot of children that take martial arts have their heads filled with delusion, delusions of grandeur, delusions of immutability, because they are so jacked up on confidence that they become stupid and reckless and think they can defeat anybody. If you're a responsible martial arts instructor, I never was, but if you're a responsible martial arts instructor, you would be teaching children to do everything they can to get attention and get help. A 13-year-old child is not likely, regardless of what they know, I don't care if they're a boxer or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever, or a Muay Thai something or other, or what have you. Generally speaking, a martial artist is not an extraordinary person. And generally speaking, a 13-year-old is not going to slap around a 38-year-old. Particularly a 38-year-old that knows what I know. Okay? So the problem is these people put themselves in danger. And mind you, I'm pretty sure this 13-year-old is the figment of this person's imagination used to try and get me off center. I know what's going on here, but I'm using this as an opportunity to explain this. It's not just children. There's a lot of yuppies that have become involved in the martial arts. They think they're all badass. You know what? I'm going to leave a link to a video. It's called The Trial Scene. It's a deleted scene from Natural Born Killers. And I like to make fun of it. A couple of my friends used to like to make fun of it because I detest Jeet Kune Do. I think Jeet Kune Do is pretty frickin' silly, especially the way it's being taught. And the lead character, who's played by Woody Harrelson, gets kicked in the face by a guy that took Jeet Kune Do. It's like he gets kicked like 7 times in the face, and then he picks him up and throws him across the room. You have to see the clip. It's hilarious. But a lot of my friends used to compare me to that clip because I can take a beating and keep dishing one out. And the thing is, what people don't understand, nobody knows what anybody knows anymore. So to go over the internet and threaten people, unless you're planning on not doing anything, but if you're stupid enough to try and get somebody off center or try and intimidate somebody over the internet that you don't know what they know, and you're dumb enough to try and meet them and then you find out what they know, you might find out they know more than you thought they knew. And that's a big problem in the modern era when everybody's taking different martial arts, etc. But very few people are extraordinary people. Okay, when I was 13 years old, yes, I could beat up somebody that was 30 or 40 years old. I also was raised by a lunatic, okay, that taught me from a very early age of about 5 to settle all of my problems with violence, okay? Brutal violence. So I was kicking the crap out of people before I took any martial arts. Okay, and I went to schools where when I'm like 11 years old, I'm kicking the crap out of a 17-year-old for shoving me. Because that's how I was raised. That's with no karate. That's just pure me, okay? But you don't run into that a lot of times in the martial arts. You don't run into people that are extraordinary people. It's not common. And it's also not common to find people that were raised from an early age to settle their problems with brutal violence, okay? And I'm not promoting violence. I'm against violence. As I've said a million times on this channel, I'm against violence, okay? However, what you have to understand, though, is this. I know what most Brazilian jiu-jitsu folks know, because a lot of my friends took Brazilian jiu-jitsu. When in my early 20s, when I started getting out of martial arts, is when the MMA craze hit. Okay, and everybody's like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay, that's what Gracie's this and Gracie's that. No. It didn't take me off my karate. And why didn't it take me off my karate? Because karate is actually a complete martial art. In fact, there's a story where Jigoro Kano, there's a reason that to be honest, there's probably been judo throws in karate long before Jigoro Kano ever met Gichin Funakoshi. But the story went that, there's a karateka, which means a karate practitioner that was at a bar in Tokyo. He was visiting from Okinawa. And a bunch of judoka are giving him a hard time, which means judo practitioner, are giving him a hard time because he's Okinawan, not Japanese. The Japanese don't like Okinawans, so they start hassling him, and this is a bar that's favored by judoka. And the karateka gets in a fight with them. They get him into a fight, and he whips their asses, okay? And Jigoro Kano says, "Whoa, this is very interesting. Me want to learn much karate." Okay, so then what happens is the dude, who turns out to be Gichin Funakoshi, teaches Jigoro Kano karate, and Gichin Funakoshi allegedly teaches him Funakoshi's throws. I don't believe that's true because karate is a complete martial art. What do I mean by that? Karate through Kabuto it teaches weaponed martial arts with like tonfas and sais and stuff like that, which I did not learn. I did not learn weapons because the martial art I take doesn't make much use of weapons, and who cares? And then it is also fist and feet, kicking and punching. Then there is stand-up grappling, and then there is actual grappling. Now, the martial art I took is the same parent art as Master Carlos Norris, Master Chuck Norris. However, and this is the thing, this is why I don't say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I don't badmouth Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Chuck Norris's Chunkukdo, which is now called the Chuck Norris fighting system, is a very formidable system of self-defense, and it makes use of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. However, what it does not have, and I know this for a fact, is the same things that we were taught combatives in the system of martial arts I was taught, because a lot of guys that took Tang Sudo in the beginning were ex-military or active military. Same thing with Shotokan. A lot of people that brought Shotokan and Judo to the United States were either active duty service members that were there because of World War II or the Korean War or the Vietnam War, etc. They were in that area learning martial arts, and they brought it back here. Or they were ex-military that went to these guys' dojos and dojongs afterward, okay? Now, the guy that taught me Tang Sudo also taught us combatives because he was a Marine combat instructor, okay? So, the thing is, I've learned different ways to inflict massive harm on somebody with minimal effort. However, and this is the important however, to have the mental wherewithal to actually be able to inflict that harm, and to have the ability to the muscular strength and the ability to do it. If you want, this is my thing with martial arts, and this is one of the reasons I'm not real big on martial arts. I do plan maybe someday on teaching tactical combatives again someday, maybe, but right now I don't really care. The thing is, you have to be big and strong. If you want self-defense, if you want to be able to defend yourself in the streets, you're better off lifting weights and making yourself bigger and stronger than your attacker. Bigger and stronger people are less likely to get screwed with in the first place than some little shrimpy dude, okay, period. And you need that strength to get the ability to land a technique. What people don't, when I first started taking jiu-jitsu, a lot of people, because I lifted a lot of weights, a lot of people could not armbar me. And when I was taking Japanese jiu-jitsu, the reason why is my arm was stronger than their whole damn body. They couldn't straighten my arm out to get me in an arm bar. And they always say that, well, his arm isn't stronger than my... Yeah, I guess I was stronger than your whole damn body, wasn't I? Okay? So the point is, the average child does not have the physical strength and the mental fortitude to operate as a combatant. That's what you're doing in a self-defense situation. Therefore, it is highly irresponsible to teach children to think of themselves as a combatant, as somebody that's going to destroy the enemy. That's, it's just not a very productive way to teach a child how to survive a self-defense situation. It just isn't. What you want to be teaching children is to get help and to neutralize it. Now, this is different than bully proofing. Now, I want to get into what bully proofing is. The school that when we taught kids, we taught bully proofing. Bully proofing, now later we kind of psyched it up and made it all into blah, 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 blah. Like, there's a lot of extra stuff going on now. I don't teach anymore, obviously. I wouldn't. But originally what bully proofing is to give people the confidence and the ability to defend themselves physically and emotionally against a bully. Okay? Another child, not an adult. We're not teaching children how to beat up 50-year-old weirdo pedophiles. That's not what we're doing. What we're teaching children is how to have the self-confidence and the physical wherewithal, strength, and ability to defend themselves against other children. If a 50-year-old creepy pedophile comes up to them, like a Catholic priest, like Father McFeely, what they're supposed to do is go to the authorities. They're supposed to do what they need to do to get away and go to the authorities. Now, what they need to do to get away might be to inflict a great deal of harm on their attacker. But they're not going to sit there and, ground and pound a 50-year-old man. It's just not reasonable to think that. But what they can do is they can get an opening and they can get away and hopefully get enough attention to the situation that bystanders will step in and help them. That's what sensible people do. Now, there's nonsensical horse crap that is very popular among the yuppie class. That, I take me some Jeet Kune Do. Oh, I'm sorry. I take Jeet Kune Do, and now I can beat anybody up. I take Bruce Lee's fighting art. It doesn't matter what the hell fighting art you take. You can take the best damn fighting art in the world, which I don't know what it would be, because really it's not up to the martial art, it's up to the martial artist. Okay? You can take whatever you consider to be the greatest martial art in the world. I don't give a damn what it is. Taking a martial art doesn't do crap if you're a crappy martial artist. And to be quite honest, over 80% of martial artists are mediocre at best, if not crappy. Okay? So the truth of the matter is the majority of martial artists suck. That's the truth. So it doesn't matter what martial art you take, and Jeet Kune Do I don't think is a very sensible martial art to take anyway. But my point is the martial art does not matter. If you're fat, if you're weak, if you're out of shape, if you're dull-witted, if you're stupid, if you're arrogant, if you have these very human flaws, and you are incapable of operating as a combatant, you will not prevail in a self-defense situation against a legitimate martial artist. It's just not reasonable. It's not reasonable to think that way. And it's certainly not reasonable to think that small children will be defeating adults just because they trained under some grand mufti of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's not how it works. It just isn't how it works. And I'm sorry to break everybody's bubble, but the truth about self-defense is more muscle-oriented. It's more oriented towards strength and stamina and agility and all the stuff that people don't want to hear, because they don't want to hear that you have to be physically competent to defend yourself. But it really is. Surviving depends more on physical aptitude than it does on knowing pressure points or any of that happy horse shit. I know that for a fact. And that's all for this video.